I talk to a lot of our colleagues in this space who are thinking, oh, what tools do I get? And obviously you've got a wide range, but what did it start off like?
It was a bunch of different stuff. And I have personal training certificates and all this stuff. But what I think I did that really helped me is I went and I found exercise scientists. I went to colleges. I went to places where people with much more education than me about sports science were able to help me formulate the method. This is where I'm going. It's basically just having a growth mindset. But
Yeah.
those two books and that whole platform, then the people I met along the way all helped develop business acumen. But then I went from that year or two of just trying to learn everything I could to just implementing it, taking action, because I have a lot of peers my age who they spend a few years learning and asking people for help. But at a certain point, you just got to take action.
Lauren's still here and welcome back to High Intensity Business, your one-stop shop for growing your hit business and fueling your passion for high intensity training. This is episode 495. I'm joined by Connor Darnbrough. Connor is the co-founder of Smart Fit Method and CEO. And Smart Fit Method are the fitness studios that redefine active aging using efficient high-tech exercises to shatter aging stereotypes, helping you build bone, muscle, and great posture with a healthier lifestyle. Connor, it is a pleasure to finally meet you and have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So thanks for doing this. And why don't we just kick off with kind of what we were talking about there off air, just in terms of what was the inspiration for you and Rob to start Smart Fit Method? Just talk us through that story.
For sure. So Rob, who's my dad, both him and I were competitive athletes. He was a professional cyclist, and I got paid to ski. He could probably call me a semi-professional skier. I was in a niche sport in skiing, but both of us were competitive athletes. And at the time, what happened was my dad had just retired from his business. He was in the finance succession planning industry. And he was all excited to basically go. He's a super active guy. He wanted to go mountain bike, go on ski trips, go travel. And he was all excited to do this. He kind of move on to the next chapter of his life. And he went and got some genome mapping done in San Diego because he just wanted to make sure his health was good, check out all that kind of stuff. And they were like, yeah, everything looks great. But did you know that your aortic valve was 2 millimeters away from rupture? Of course, he had no idea, didn't really know what that meant. So he went and talked to a few cardiologists, and the cardiologist essentially told him, hey, you can't lift anything over 20, 30 pounds, and you can't walk the hill again for the rest of your life, or you're probably going to die. Your aortic valve will rupture, you'll have an aortic aneurysm, and there's a 3% survival chance if that happens. So that kind of really, set things off. He was depressed, bedridden for 6 months, didn't know what to do. He's just scared to move. The cardiologist, he spoke to 3 of them. They all said the same thing. It really freaked him out. And about 6 months in, one of his buddies kind of saw what was going on and was like, hey, I think, I work with this doctor. His name's Dr. Gladden, Dr. Jeffrey Gladden. And he's been helping me because he had something relatively similar. So he referred him to that doctor. And that doctor wrote the papers on Vasper. It's a cooling and compression machine. It utilizes blood flow restriction, and it's on a super low impact new step platform. So it's very low impact, pretty safe, and it is really good at kind of keeping your blood pressure low during exercise. So he was able to utilize that. He did it 3 times a week. And at the time, I was living out in San Diego. He was living in Hawaii, and I hadn't seen him in 6, 7 months. I came back to visit over Thanksgiving, and I'd seen the progress he had. He went from a VO2 max to when he first kind of got diagnosed and started getting bedridden, his VO2 max was about 25, which is about a sedentary 60-year-old.
Yeah.
Pretty low VO2 max because he literally hadn't been doing anything. And after about 6 months of utilizing the Vasper, his VO2 max went back up to a 68, just doing the Vasper 3 times a week for 20 minutes. And for anyone who doesn't know, VO2 max is just the oxygen utilization in your body. It's a really good marker when it comes to longevity. It outpredicts most markers, smoking, blood pressure, etc. So seeing that in him kind of lit the catalyst of there's technology out there that I had no idea of that can really help people. And that's where the spark was kind of lit. I basically went down a super deep rabbit hole, looked into Vasper, I looked into a bunch of other equipment and started formulating, okay, how do we take this equipment that my dad literally had to be told he was potentially going to die to use or find out about, and how do we make it available to the general public? That was my goal. At the beginning, it started off with mostly like corrective exercise. Like I wanted to just help people who were having health conditions or, weren't able to exercise at a traditional gym. And then it kind of just transformed from that to, I think we have a better way of exercising than a traditional gym, and let's help as many people as we can with this technology. So that was kind of how everything started. I came to him, he helped me open the first location. I got it all set up. For the first location opened, we had a lot of members who wanted to open their locations as well because they saw what we were doing. So they approached me about it. We turned it into a franchise. We had no intent of becoming a franchise. It just was kind of a natural way things unfolded because people wanted in these facilities. And then, we kind of grew from there.
Amazing. Appreciate that high level summary. That's so cool. And so, okay, so just rewinding a little bit, just give us an overview of the business, right? So you said you were initially opening to help people that had some health conditions, right? And then you started seeing how much this could just help everyone in terms of improving health and longevity and anti-aging, etc. So talk us through like that journey, a little bit more granularity. Like how did you decide like what you were gonna like? Because I talk to a lot of our colleagues in this space who are thinking, oh, what tools do I get? And obviously you've got a wide range, but what did it start off like? Was it just Vasper or was it a bunch of stuff?
It was a bunch of different stuff, and I have personal training certificates and all this stuff, but what I think I did that really helped me is I went and I found exercise scientists. I went to colleges. I went to places where people with much more education than me about sports science were able to help me formulate the method. So I knew Vasper was great because that's what helped cure my dad's, basically enlarged aortic valve. And then I knew that the ARX from that was the only piece of equipment that he could strength train on without his blood pressure spiking right through the roof. And the reason for that is because it takes momentum out of the movement. There's, having to break inertia, basically machines moving as you push. And most spikes in blood pressure during exercise come from that initial, like where you're basically pushing off your chest, you're pulling the weight off the floor. So that's how I found out about the ARX.
Interesting.
And then the Carol, I'm a cyclist too. I compete in mountain biking. I heard about the Carol from cycling when there's things like Watt Bike Carol. But it's a good bike that allows people to do zone training and do what's called like rehit training, reduced exertion, high intensity training. But it has a really easy to understand software. So people can, the general person who's not super familiar with cycling can kind of get some of the benefits of heart rate zone training, and it's easy to understand for them. So that's where that kind of came from. And that was the initial three. It was the ARX, the Vasper, and
you
Carol.
opened with just that to start with.
Just that. Yeah. And then from there, as the first year progressed, we started making some money, started putting some of that money into other equipment, and really starting to finalize, what the method is today. But we started introducing things like Livo 2. So that's basically oxygen system where it's adaptive contrast when you train EWOD, so high oxygen, 90% oxygen. We are breathing at sea level. People breathe about 21% oxygen. And we can also do altitude training. So anywhere from 10 to 20,000 feet of elevation, we can do with that system as well. So we introduced that to the Carol bikes.
What does that look like? Is that just a mask or what is that exactly?
Yeah, it's basically a mask and a big bag behind you. There's two bags. The top bag has the 90% oxygen. The bottom bag has the 10 to 20,000 feet of elevation level of oxygen. And you have a mask and you flip a switch and you go between the two. A lot of benefits for that when it comes to improving people's VO2 max, improving their lung capacity. It's also really good for brain health. They're using it a lot like for medical purposes to help people prevent dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that. Because if you can't tell already, like we're a very longevity focused gym. We're trying to help improve people's health span, quality of life that they live for as long as they live. So we just looked at, okay, what are the different technologies that are going to keep it simple enough for people to understand, but also really help them. And then we also introduced the biocharger a little later on. That's a recovery device. And that's basically helping people's cellular health recover quicker from exercise, help get them basically reduce cortisol levels so they get a better response from the strength training or cardiovascular training that they're doing. And then we also we introduced a couple other things, but we did some research and development. But that's kind of the main model. And then now we're actually moving into, they're still smart fit method facilities, but the concept or package is smart health. So in Salt Lake City and Park City, we're opening kind of two new facilities. It's going to be a bit bigger and a bit different than our other facilities. We're going to have the introduction of saunas, cold plunges, red light therapy, as well as access to telemedicine with a functional medicine doctor, because we found that a lot of our members, they exercise is the entry point. They start with the exercise, they start to get fitter, start to get healthier, and then start to help transform their lifestyle. So including the recovery really helps, but also giving them access to the functional medicine doctor on top of that is where we can start to make more of those lifestyle changes, start working more on the nutrition, make sure the hormones are good, all that kind of stuff.
Okay. There's a lot there. The biocharger. Yeah, there's so much. I've wrote down so much here. The biocharger, explain what that is and how that works.
Yeah. So the biocharger, there's kind of 4 key pillars of it on the science. And basically the first one's PEMF. So at the bottom of the base of it,
Oh, okay.
It looks like this Tesla coil machine. Some people think it looks kind of like a 3D printer, but it's a Tesla coil type machine. And basically on the bottom, there's PEMF, pulsing electromagnetic fields. That's really good for improving the rate of transportation for nutrients between cells. So it's like, I think of it like a drill sergeant. Basically, it's getting all the nutrients in line so that the cells transport them better, which helps improve cellular health. There's an electrical charge that's produced. So a lot of people, they talk about grounding, walking barefoot on the beach or whatever it may be. And that helps permeate your cell wall. So when you produce an electrical charge, your body receives it, it permeates the cell walls. And a permeable cell is a waste cell. It allows for waste product to come out, nutrients to come in. The opposite of a permeable cell is a rigid cell. The most rigid cells are typically cancer cells. So improving permeation in cell is very good for just overall cellular health. And then there's also noble gases. So you have the noble gases in Earth's atmosphere. It's emitted. Once again, just designed to help kind of improve cellular health, get some of the benefits of nature, because unfortunately, a lot of people just do not get outside enough, especially we deal with a lot of busy professionals. And while they would love to get outside more and experience those benefits, we try to give them some of that while they're in the facility. And then the last one's frequencies and harmonics, and that can help produce different wave frequencies in the brain, alpha, theta, delta. And basically, we're trying to produce more alpha wave frequency and focus frequency, because someone works out, they get a bit of brain fog. You want to improve their health, help get them basically recovered as quick as possible so that when they go back to their meetings or go play with their kids or whatever it is, they feel good, they have good energy.
Cool. Interesting. So it's interesting listening to you, because also you've broadened your offer, your product set over time, and now you're spinning up these other locations that are kind of more comprehensive. Smart health, so it's like telemedicine, infrared sauna, etc., but it will still have your other stuff too, Vaspra, ARX. It's going to be probably a large layout, a location, I suspect.
It's a larger facility. So typically our footprint, for the other facilities, Just Fitness, is 12 to 1,500 square feet. These facilities are going to be doing 4,000 square feet. So they're a lot larger.
And are the smart health ones going to be corporate owned to begin with, and then how does that going to work?
Yeah, they're corporate owned basically to begin with. I mean, we're working with the franchise on it, but we're partly corporate owned as well. So it's kind of a hybrid on the facilities in Utah. So we'll see how those do. I'm pretty confident in that model, and then we'll kind of evolve from there and see if we want to franchise those or if we want to just continue to open them corporate.
Got it. And how do you know where to draw the line? Because this kind of process comes up all the time on this podcast, actually, where people come on the show, business owners, and they're the sort of service offering gets a bit more broader and broader and more complicated, because you've got to operationalize all of that, you've got to market all of that, all this, right? You deal with this, is your day to day, and there's the well-known business saying, I'm not sure where this comes from. I heard it from Luke Carlson, who you might be familiar with. And it's the scope of the brand is inversely proportional to the strength of the brand. So the more you do, the weaker your brand gets. And if you look at some of the fastest growing brands today, you look at Apple, for instance, you can put all their products on a table and they're like one of the largest brands, or if not the largest brand, right? So how do you think about that? Does that concern you, right? That you spread yourself quite thin of all these different offers, and in the mind of the consumer, you might be. So the idea is that, I suppose, because you're staying within the category of like longevity and anti-aging, it's like you're not getting away from that. Like you're staying in that category. But I guess perhaps you have to be careful, and I'm sure you do go through like a vetting process of whatever you're going to bring on, not just if it's evidence-based, but does it fit the business model, perhaps? So yeah, I mean, how do you think about that? I'm just curious as you continue to kind of like expand the offering.
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, one is you add more services, it becomes more difficult for people to understand how to utilize them. So like if we just put
Right.
20 pieces of equipment in our facility and said, hey, go at it, use whatever you want, it becomes pretty difficult for that person to understand the value of what they're getting and also how to utilize it. Hence the name, the Smart Fit method. We try to methodize all that we do. So when someone comes in, they do a pretty thorough orientation process where we're getting the metabolic factors, risk factors. We're getting, body composition, VO2 max assessments, strength assessment, pretty thorough intake questionnaire. And we customize their programs. It's systemized, but it's also customized. So when they come in, we will take what their true goals are, and then we'll put a conjunction together of, hey, you should do strength training this much, the Vasper this much, the bike this much, maybe recovery this much. Even though we have more services, it's still the same amount of time that they're kind of expecting to come into the facility. And we give them a pretty clear roadmap.
Right.
The other thing too is as we continue to expand more things, exercise will always still be at the core of what we do, because we exercise as medicine and it's one of the most potent forms of medicine. So when we add the recovery and functional medicine, these are more add-ons. The core of the program still going to be the exercise, but they're strategic byproducts of our business that the recovery and the functional medicine are areas that people who come to our facilities already utilize. So we're starting to introduce those as well, because we believe that we can do a better job, or at least make it a more valuable offer for them.
Yeah, you make some really good points there. One of them is that it's not, did you see, does a la carte fall apart, right? I didn't mean to rhyme when I said that. But it's like, if you say, hey, we've got all these services, go at it. Like, just do whatever you feel like doing. It's just overwhelming. It's like a paradox of choice, and each one is complicated, but you've given them a roadmap, right? You've got a prescription. Right. So did you try doing like a all you can eat buffet or a la carte approach and it just fell apart? Can you speak on that?
Yeah, we tried a bunch of things. I mean, the a la carte, the biggest issue with the a la carte from my perspective was that, they're coming to us because we have great trainers, a lot of science behind what we do, and they're kind of expecting us to guide them. We target, there other people talk about this, but there's 8% of people who are like fanatics in the exercise industry. They love working out. They talk about it all day. They'll try different programs, all kinds of different stuff. Then there's like the 60% of people who just are afraid to go to the gym. They hate the gym. They don't want to go to the gym. And that's always a struggle trying to get those people in, but that's the percentage of population. And then there's like 32% of people, give or take, that are kind of stuck in the middle. They don't know if they want to exercise, like, at the gym, they don't really know where they want to go. But they also don't feel comfortable just sitting on the couch because they know that it has benefits for them. We target typically the 32%. We pull in 8%, 8%ers, the fanatics. We pull in some people off the couch, but the people who are just looking to exercise, they understand the benefits of it. They don't necessarily love it. It's not everything they do. Those are the people that we really, I think, thrive with. And those people, the 8% fanatics, if you go a la carte, they'll come in, they love that. They can, play around with all kinds of different equipment.
So you do sell to some of those. You do service some of those types.
Some of them, but it's not necessarily who we target.
It's not the core. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could give them the science, hey, you should work out on the AirX twice a week and you need 4 to 7 days to recover or whatever for your nervous system. I could tell them all the science, but they're like, I want to try working out 4 times and I want to do an arm day and a leg day and, whatever, separate it out into a crazy split. They're trying to adjust their traditional knowledge of the fitness industry into what we do. And with us being so cutting edge and the science being behind what we're doing, it doesn't really benefit us to target those people. So having those 32%ers, they really appreciate coming in and just having like a laid out recommended protocol. We put some flexibility in there, so it's not like mundane and monotonous, but we give them, hey, this is the recommended protocol. And then every 3 months, we analyze their progress with data, and then we give them an adjustments to keep them going and making progress in the future.
Got it. Okay. Just reiterate, what is that? Define that 32% again. Those are people that know they should exercise. Sorry, I'll let you elaborate. Just remind me.
Yeah, the 32%, I mean, it's essentially, they understand exercise, but they don't really get the minimum dose. So they're not getting enough strength training, they're not getting enough cardiovascular exercise. And they know they need the gym. They don't necessarily love the gym, but they're also not willing to just sit on the couch. They're kind of like in between. They're undecided, essentially. The 8%, they're like, they love exercise. They're going to do it no matter what. Like it would be hard to get them to stop exercising. The 60%, it's a battle to get them to come into the gym. So the 32%, that's that in between where it's just, they know they need it. They don't necessarily love it, but they know they need it. Those are the people that we target.
Yeah, they're already sufficiently motivated, right? So
yeah,
makes more sense to target them. And I'm curious, do you go even more detailed than that? Do you have like a very clear like avatar? Like Jeff is 52 years old. He works in finance. Like, do you do that kind of thing in terms of your marketing?
Yeah, we have our kind of our age and income and all that kind of stuff. But with like age, I've seen anywhere from 40 to 70. I like to say we kind of have two separate age demographics. We have a 40 to 55. I would just say busy person. It could be busy professional, it could be busy mother, but 40 to 55, busy person. That is definitely a sweet spot for us, as well as a 55 to 75, or 55 to 70-ish. That person, they could be a retiree, they could be semi-retired, or they've worked, they're usually pretty successful, but now they want to make sure that they have the help to go out and enjoy the things they want to do.
Yeah.
They have all the, there's that, it's kind of that inverse relationship where people spend a bunch of time, working, and they don't have very much time, to do the things they want to do. They have a bunch of money, but not a lot of time. And then it gets to a certain point as they start to get close to retiring where they still have that money, but now their time's come all the way back up, but they no longer have their health. So it's this inverse relationship where you're working, you're slowly sacrificing your health. You get to the end of that journey, your health's not really where it needs to be, and now you have the money and you have the time to do all the things you wanted to do while you're working. And we get a lot of those people. They're coming in, they may have diabetes, they might have heart conditions, they probably had some injuries, maybe knee replacement, and we help get those where you need to get.
Awesome. So just going back to packaging, this is interesting to me. You don't show your pricing on your website, I don't think. And is that deliberate?
We show it on location-specific landing pages. So
Got it.
We don't put it on the homepage, but when the person starts to go through that journey, we'll show them some of our price points. We have, multiple membership options. So it's kind of, people can see it if they want to, but really at the end of the day, we want them to come into the facility because the trainer will go through that whole intake with them and recommend the protocol that makes the most sense for them.
Right. Because it's, there's kind of two ways of looking at it, right? There's we want them to experience it, so they give the price context, right? Which is what the argument to not having the pricing on the site. The argument for it is we want to qualify in the right people in the first place. How do you feel about those two ideas? Where do you sit on that spectrum?
Yeah, I like putting it on the landing page when that person's somewhat committed to checking it out. We've tried both. I definitely think it's good to put it on the website, so it's not like a complete shock, what there is, but just making sure that it's known that there's multiple options, right? And that the trainer is going to help you decide which option makes the most sense for you. Like our prices range from $99 a month to $999 a month. So right, there's a big range there, and it just depends how far we want to go. We also do like hormonal assessments with people. We do metabolic testing. We have consultations with doctors available. So we have all these kind of add-ons that if people really want to go to that level, they can, or they can kind of just start simple with us. So, I like having the price on the website. I don't think it needs to be like the first thing they see because when you're, a lot of the people who come to like our type of facilities, right, these high intensity, short, efficient workouts, especially if they have trainers involved, they're comparing you a lot of times. The general population will compare you to a typical box gym. They'll go to Planet Fitness, they'll see $12.95 a month, and then they'll go to your,
And so how much of it?
it's probably, I think last time I checked, he was there. It might be $20, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's cheap, right? They'll see $20 or, Choose Fitness, maybe $35 a month or whatever. And then they'll go to a group fitness or a semi-private or private personal training practice and they'll see, hey, it's $300 a month or 400 or 200 or whatever. And that's where that price separation comes in. So what I like to do is I like to show more of the value and then show the price. So at least when they see our price, they know that we are of this value first.
Yeah, wow, makes a lot of sense. So I'm just curious, and forgive me, I should have probably looked into this ahead of this call, but how do you then present the pricing then? Because I didn't realize that was the range. So how do you present it? Is it like, we start from X, or how does it presented on the landing page? I'm just curious of the details of that.
Yeah, on the landing page, we do kind of a typical three like options, right? Where you have your low, middle, high. Most recommended, most typical is going to be the middle price point. When they come into the facility, we do what's called like a diamond pricing model, where you have your kind of like, this is like the full tilt like package. And then you have your A or B, do you prefer price or flexibility? And then if it's not A or B, kind of that lower entry offer where they can get started and at least experience you before they decide to go something else.
Today's episode is sponsored by Imagine Strength, the game changer in safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training machines. When it comes to HIIT, Imagine Strength is your go-to for intelligently designed, efficient, and affordable equipment. Their team is passionate about HIIT, and it shows in every piece they craft. So why are Imagine Strength the right choice? Number one, they tailor-make their equipment for HIIT studios. Number two, they provide cost-effective solutions for your business. And number three, they are committed to ongoing innovation and refinement. Ready to take your HIIT business to the next level? Visit imaginestrength.com to discuss your needs and find the perfect gear for your studio. Join the HIIT revolution of Imagine Strength and transform your workout experience today. Okay, so you'll anchor it against that diamond. Sorry, I know you just ran out. You're fine. You still sound clear.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, that's clever. That's clever. As I'm listening to you, Connor, it's clear to me that you're very young, right? But you've developed a really, I can tell just by looking at you've got that young face of you. But
yeah.
you've clearly developed your business acumen. I'm curious. Obviously, your father has been helpful, I'm sure. But what resources have you leaned on? What books, mentors? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah. So when I first wanted to start a business, I was going to college during the whole COVID phase. I'm 23 years old. So when 23. I started, yeah, I was 19. Yeah, no, I was a baby and I still am a baby and, in the business and it. So, but I was 19 years old. And I think when you're a young entrepreneur, you may not have the experience, but you also aren't really competition for people yet because you're just, when you get 35, 40, you start to get up there, they see you more as competition. But I just went out and everyone I can find that I thought I could learn something from, I'd ask them for help or assistance and try to get as much knowledge as I could, in those kind of the beginning year before I started the business. I really took a year. I didn't say anything to my parents. I probably should have, but I wasn't going to class. I was just working and trying to learn as much as I could. And, being a young entrepreneur, you have a huge advantage where people are going to want to help you. As you get older and you become more successful, it becomes more competition. But, so I had a lot of mentors. I had a guy, Todd Durkin, he spoke to me, and helped me out a lot. He owns a personal training facility. Wayne Cotton, he's a guy from Canada. He helped me a lot in the early days, really nailing down what my demographics were and what I wanted to do. I was very fortunate, like you mentioned, to have a father who's been successful as an entrepreneur. He started his first company when he was 17. So I actually was a little bit behind him, but he a lot of information, kind of these are some of the people you should talk to, or these are some of the things you should consider. one of the best pieces of advice I think my dad gave me is like, if you're going to start a business, like make sure you're 100% willing to stick it out for 10 years at a minimum, because,
Great
it's
advice.
when you're starting something, it's like a honeymoon phase. You're like, everything's so great, but there's going to be a lot of ups and downs on that journey. And being like fully committed to something for 10 years, making sure you're passionate enough about it to stick it through is, I think, one of the better pieces of advice I got. And then I went and joined Strategic Coach, which is a coaching platform. That's one of the tools I utilize. They do a lot of, kind of work-life balance management type stuff, but they also do a lot of systemization of your business, systems and processes. And they give you a lot of tools to help you kind of like understand kind of key aspects, how to deal with a problem, maybe how to break through into they could have a tool called the largest check, where let's say your typical membership is $299. Like, how do you go from maybe selling $299 to $999 as your typical membership? And they have all these tools where you can go through that, and a bunch of free books. Like, you don't have to join their program. You can just search up Strategic Coach, and there's the Who Not How, which is a great book. It's basically like, instead of asking how to do something, you try to find who can help you do it. It's a lot more efficient. I found The Gap and the Gain is a great book where they talk about having basically a growth mindset, not getting stuck in the gap. The gap is kind of where you're measuring against. So you have like your ideal perspective, and then you're holding yourself kind of against that. You're like, oh, I'm this far from that, rather than focusing on the gain, which is, this is where I started, this is where I'm going. It's basically just having a growth mindset. But those two books and that whole platform, then the people I met along the way, all kind of helped develop business acumen. But then it went from, that year or two of just like trying to learn everything I could, to just implementing it, taking action, because I have a lot of peers my age who they spend a few years learning and asking people for help. But at a certain point, you just got to take action. Like, one of those guys, Todd Durkin, he gave me a bunch of advice, and then he was like, hey man, like, come talk to me when you started it, like, you know what I mean? Because I was just question after question after question. It's like, a lot of that stuff you do learn once you just take action.
Yeah. Yeah. I noticed this question has lit you up. Not that you weren't lit up before, but you seem particularly passionate about this. Yeah, it's interesting. When you went into execution mode, did you find that your consumption of learning material like reduced significantly, or were you not learning at all? I mean, obviously you're still learning, you learn as you execute, but did you find that you shut that side off almost completely because you were just executing, or it's just elaborate on that a little bit for me? Yeah.
It went more into like supplemental. Like, I would be executing on tasks, and then I would go read a book or listen to something or watch a video on how I could improve that specific thing I was working on.
Okay. So you're very like judicious about like only like just in time rather than just in case consumption, right? Just what you need.
Yeah. Because I think I built a lot of knowledge going into it, and then I was able to utilize that. And then, I went more like specific niche things, like, okay, I have an HR situation, or this is some payroll stuff or whatever. I went very niche as I was executing, because I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Kolbe. It's like a motives of operations test. It's a really good test to do, because we do it for all of our staff. We can see there's fact finders, which are people who,
I've done this. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
to execute on something, which is fine. Those are typically more like accountants, lawyers types. And then you have your like implementers who like to use their hands to kind of figure things out. You can think of like an architect or a construction worker. Then you have your follow through, who is just like that project manager, someone who's just super dialed at executing on tasks. And then you have your quick start, who's they just need to get into action. They don't need a lot of information. They kind of like people who like to wing it, essentially, or just think on the fly. I'm like a very heavy quick start. So I had all that knowledge, and I was just at a certain point, it's like, I just got to take action. And that's how I kind of said, just a little bit of knowledge, take action, learn on the fly. And then, I think the biggest thing for those types of people, though, like myself, is doing like experience transformers, essentially doing things where you're analyzing, okay, what did I do well? What did I not do well? How do I improve next time I do this? Because otherwise you just kind of start winging it all the time. You make a bunch of mistakes. But if you wing it and then you learn from it and then you do it again and again, I think it creates a good pathway to success.
Yeah. Wow. Did you do that a while ago? Because you just seem to have great retention of that, or is that something that you constantly come back to, the Kolbe stuff?
Yeah, I've done it like 3 times now. So
Okay.
my dad, entrepreneur, he put a lot of, like when I was 12, I took that test. And
Of course you did.
then, so, I have a lot of, it was crazy as it hasn't changed at all since I was 12. I've done it 3 times. I did one when I was 12, when I was 18, when I was 22, and it's literally been the exact same score every time I've done it.
So as you were describing it, I remembered I'd done it and I was looking for my results so I could bring that up, but it's on an old email, so I think I've lost it somewhere. So maybe I'll find it in the future. I think I came out similar, quick start. Just elaborate on, so given that outcome, how does that help you? How does that, knowing that, help you? Like, what have you changed about your behavior to make the most of your
Yeah.
outcome?
I mean, getting in the room is a big one, right? Like just taking that first action, like instead of looking at a huge project and going, okay, like this is all the stuff I need to do. This is every piece of it. I just like, what's the first step I need to take? What's like, the first step is what's like, once I take that first step, I'm going through it, but it's like, what's the very first thing I can take action on? That might be as simple as calling someone who knows more about this matter than I do, or it could just be signing up for something or whatever, but just the first action. So I try to look at every project I have, just what's the first action, and then going from there. I found that delegation, especially being, entrepreneur CEO, taking that first step, getting something like 80% and then giving it to someone who's going to be able to execute on it, is very beneficial. I don't have the highest follow through. I use tools to help me make sure things get done, but I'm not like, I'm more visionary taking action than I am like making sure every single little detail gets accomplished. Um, and I try to surround myself with people who are high follow through because of that. I think it's not so much about like how I approach being a quick start. Like there's things like that's a natural mode of operation. Like something gets thrown to me, I'm going to just want to take action and get started immediately. But what it's really helped me with is hiring around me to make sure that I have the right people in place who can support me, in business. And then also it helps. The reason I have them take the test as well is because it helps us better understand each other. You have a high quick start and a high fact finder in the same room. It can create a lot of conflict because I want to go. They need to make sure they have more details before they get started. And both you both understand each other's modes of operation, then I find that it creates a lot less conflict in business. So
Do you have everyone go through Kolbe in the business?
yeah, everyone. Yep. Yeah.
Really?
So my franchisees, the trainers. Now I'm not so worried about the trainers at other facilities, but I do have the franchisees do it with their trainers, and then all of the staff in the corporation to also do it, because I've found it to be a very useful tool, and I'm a big fan of it. A big fan of Colby and a big fan of Clifton Strengths.
Did you Okay. Did you excel academically?
No, I wasn't bad. I was
Surprising.
able to get through it, but I I wasn't the most motivated student. We'll say that. I was good at crunch time. If I needed something done, I could get it
Right.
done. But I wasn't a good student. I was pretty checked out. Yeah, I had a lot of other passions outside of school, and I put my energy and time more into athletics and
Yeah.
things like that. And honestly, work. I was working more or less night shifts in high school, and I preferred that a lot more than going to school.
Yeah, fair enough. The traditional school system isn't for all of us, especially some of us entrepreneurs.
No,
Yeah, be extremely self-aware for someone at 23 years old is quite compelling, or unusual to see. Um, so you mentioned earlier that you lean on tools, like you're self-aware enough to know that your follow up, your follow through is not always what it might be of others or for others. So what tools are you referring to? I'm curious, what tools do you use to help with that?
yeah, I mean, one of the big things is like, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this probably know of it, but like Otter AI. Whenever I take a meeting, I use that because
Oh yeah.
just gives me next actions and summarizes the meeting. So I have note takers. I do a green sheet after meetings. It's something I've recently implemented. Basically, just like I just met with someone. What are the next 3 actions I need to take? And I do that right after all my meetings because it might be delegating something to someone. It might be something I need to do to follow up. But having that green sheet is crucial for me.
Why is it called a green sheet?
I honestly don't know. It's just the tool, the name of the tool I guess I use, but it's essentially the green sheet is just, I'm assuming it has something to do with money making activities, which is why they call it a green sheet.
Oh, I see. Is it an app or how does it work?
It's
our method?
a sheet. Honestly, you could just make like a Word doc on it. It's something I got through Strategic Coach, but it's basically what was the purpose of the meeting? What are the next 3 actions you're going to take? And then who do you need to, who are your people that are going to help you with these actions?
Are you familiar with Traction and EOS?
Yep.
You know this? Yep. Do you use this in your business?
Like, I use it in conjunction with Strategic Coach. So Gino Rickman, the guy who, wrote Traction, he went to Strategic Coach for a long time and he developed a lot of tools and added to what he learned in Strategic Coach. So I find it beneficial. I use it, but I just use it in conjunction with Strategic Coach. I would say my staff utilize it more than I do. I utilize Strategic Coach more than they do, probably, is the way to put it.
Okay. Yeah. And just a technical detail, Otter AI, that's integrated in Zoom natively, is it now, I think, or not?
I don't know if it's integrated natively. I know that it does work with almost all, like Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft. I use Microsoft Teams,
right.
But it just is good note taking. ChatGPT on your phone, you can audio record now. Like if you're, like one of the things, and this is something I actually have learned from, being a young person and working with a lot of 50, 60-year-olds and stuff, like a lot of people take notes on their phone. And that's kind of a turnoff to someone, especially who didn't grow up with a phone. So like, trying to get out of the habit of being like, hey, hold on, then pulling out my phone. Because it's like, I'm just trying to be task oriented, but that's, they think I'm talking to someone else or they think I'm not
texting or
I like to try to be in the moment as much as I can now. So if I need to, I'll audio record or I'll record on ChatGPT and then create a summary, but I'll do that kind of like, I'll let them know so they're not just saying something and I'm recording. But I do that so that I'm more present with people. And then other tools, like a lot of it's coach stuff, but you could probably utilize some, like I do a lot of DOS questionnaires. So that's dangers, opportunities, and strengths. I try to do that for all my clients and anyone who's writing the check, essentially. I try to figure out how I can help eliminate dangers that they might be facing or obstacles they're facing. I try to figure out how we can capitalize on certain opportunities they have. And then I focus on how I can maximize the current strengths they have, right? So if I'm working with someone as a client and they're, working out, maybe they're super strong, right? They have a good amount of muscle mass, but one of the obstacles they're facing is they hold on to fat. And then an opportunity is that they are, they're maybe on a three-month break, finding a new job. So they have the time right now to work out and achieve their goals. That's kind of how I would run through a DOS with someone. But I found that that's a super good tool for figuring out how to market to people, what your key demographic is, and then how you can help them the most. That's a tool I use. And I mentioned it earlier, but an experience transformer, that's essentially like an after action report. What did I do that worked? What did I do that didn't work? And then what's a system of actions that I can create to help improve the next time I do this? Do that. I mean, we put that into the staff, like every single trainer after they do a sales meeting, will fill out one of those experience transformers.
That's just a form. You could Google experience transformer and probably get the template.
Yep.
Interesting, because when you said tools, I thought you were going to talk to me about loads of fancy software, but it's more about actual methods, right? And templates, which is really fascinating to hear. I mean, you're teaching me so much on this call. This the DOS approach, that could be great for I'm thinking you probably do quite a lot of new franchisee consultations potentially. I don't know if that's part of your role, but it would make a lot of sense to put yourself in their shoes, understand dangers, obstacles, and strengths in that context. Obviously, this is applicable everywhere, but that's what came to mind for me. So would you use it in that context as well?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
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 Cool.
In that context, any sales situation, I think is really important to understand, because then you can understand how you can help the person.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I mean, software, right? Like I do use like things like HubSpot for our CRM. We built out, one of the things that we did early on is we built out like our own proprietary client app and trainer app. So rather than using like MindBody, we built out like,
Expensive.
it is expensive, and it took like 3 years. So,
Right.
just a warning, if anyone's thinking of doing that, it's expensive and it takes a long time, but at the
Long time.
results of it has been worth it, because we can really, we can pull up everyone's data on that. We can book their workouts. We have like a full notes platform where we know like, all their health data. We know what their goals are, what motivates them, basically their DOS. And then we also have like, we can see all their metabolic data and their body scan information and their strength improvements. So it's really helpful as a trainer. I mean, it makes, I don't really train people that much anymore, but it makes your life so much easier when you know what that person did 2 weeks ago, and you know what their strength level is and
I bet. Yeah.
how they're motivated.
You create your own apps. I mean, that is, so you build a software company in your company, basically. And I think,
Yeah.
again, tell me if I'm going into territory I shouldn't. But obviously, a lot of people listening to this will be bootstrapping. You're right; they won't necessarily have the funds. Can you talk to me about any of that? Like, did you have backing or investors to help at the start, or is it all, because that's a very expensive, like you say, undertaking. Yeah.
It's a legit undertaking. Yeah. So the first location, we didn't have like any of that. That came with some of the profit we made on the first location. And then also opening other facilities. I mean, like the first location, the investment was through Rob, my dad, right? Him and I partnered on it. He gave me a loan that I had to pay back to open that first location. Did well.
Right, which to be fair was an incredible investment, which I can say that just after an hour of talking to you. So fair play to Rob for seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very fortunate. He's believed that I could do something in it, and gave me that support. It wasn't, it was it took a long time to convince him of it. It was a whole thing, but I think it was worth it in the long run. But after we opened, yes, we started making some money. We were able to start kind of putting some money towards the app, and then also the other facilities opening as well kind of helped with that support too. And yeah, I mean, if we put more capital to it out the front, we probably could have got it done in a year, but slowly building it out, improving it over time was kind of the way we did it. But I think there is a lot of great, like, we don't use them, but there is a lot of great softwares out there that can do, keep notes of your clients and make sure that you're tracking their appointments and everything. There is good software. And I think if I was just first starting out a facility and I didn't grow through that way, I would probably start with one of those.
Sure, yeah. But now you've, built a deeper moat around your organization by having your own stuff, which is tailored to you. Yeah, and if anyone's curious, the popular ones that come to mind for me would be Strength Portal and Trainerize, quite popular in our space. But that's so interesting. So just before we wrap up here, Connor, I mean, I should have asked this at the start, but can you give us like maybe an idea of the scale of the business? Like how many members are we looking at per location, or could you give us some details and just the volume of maybe sessions, if you measure that, workouts or members per location, that kind of thing?
For sure. So we have 8 locations currently open. We're opening 2 more in January and February, but the 8 locations all kind of average around 100 members. We have some that are just opening like a few months ago, where they're at like 60, 70 members, or 50 members, or others that are like 150 members. So our sweet spot is kind of more around the 150 member mark. It usually takes a year to 2 to get there. And a lot of our facilities are in their first year. So that's kind of the average. But our 2 new facilities, they have much higher capacities. So our highest capacity right now with our current model is 180 members. That's where we can deliver the quality and experience for the price point we charge. But at the new facilities, the capacity is around 450 members, more equipment, more space.
Mm-hmm. And can you share like average order value? Like, because you said it's $99 to $999 a month. What do you see as being like the average?
Yeah. 300 every 4 weeks. Yeah. We charge on, we charge on a weekly basis. So we have a $75 a week and $85 a week membership, and that totals about 300 to 340 every 4 weeks.
Interesting. And that's a psychological tool more so, I suspect, than a billing.
Psychological, and it's also how we do our protocols. So we do a weekly
Oh, okay.
protocol people. So it's like, yeah, we basically we charge for what we deliver in a week because we give them X amount of workouts on their protocol within those 7 days, and that's
Mhm.
X cost. And then every 4 weeks we charge.
And so no one's on like a package, or they buy X amount, or is there a la carte options? Can you is it? I just wonder if everyone's on that kind of like membership
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. So the top option is we do like basically we have a 6 week package. In the new year, we're gonna have a 16 week package.
Okay.
So, and we also have a 6 month package. So there's these upper packages, and then that includes the membership. It also throws in add-ons depending on what they commit to. And then we usually do, because we do a lot of data tracking, if they hit X, Y, and Z goals that we set off with them, trying to make them as realistic and also like health focused as possible. We don't want someone to lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks. That's not what we do. We want them to build some muscle. We want them to improve their cardiovascular fitness. So if they hit X goals, then we'll usually credit that towards a membership. So they kind of start off with a package. They hit X goal,
right,
goes towards a membership.
Oh, so train to continuity after that. Clever, right? And which makes sense for everyone. So one last question on that. If you can answer this, again, answer if you can't. And what percentage of those kind of 100 members would be on a membership or on some kind of continuity?
Oh, like, yeah, that's, I'm including all the 100. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So like people that are not members are not included in that 100 necessarily.
No, we'll get like, maybe 4 or 5
Yeah.
packages, and then those people will transfer over to members. A lot of people start on just the membership. Most of our
Right.
clients just, month to month.
Because that's where right. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
We have a very low churn rate at our facilities, and I think that speaks to our program. Like we had out of our first 50 members at the Cardiff location, which is the first location, I think there's 44 of them still remaining. That's been 3.5 years. So we have a lot of people. We have a very low churn rate. When people come into our facility, they usually sign up and they usually stay. So
awesome. Great. Connor, thank you so much. We're at the end of our time together, but I've really enjoyed this, and you're a very impressive young man. So thank you for making the time. And I don't think I've ever said that to someone. I used to be the young man, Connor. I'm no longer the young man, so I don't get that label anymore. So tell me, how can the listeners find out more about you? Is it smartfitmethod.com? And if they're interested in a franchise opportunity, smartfitmethod.com/franchise. Is there anywhere else we should be sending them?
I mean, those are the 2 main spots. I mean, we at SmartFit Method is our social platforms. That's something that, I think this in the year, you're going to see a lot more of us on there, and LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all SmartFit Method. But the website's the best way to learn about us. And then I'm on LinkedIn as well, Connor Darnbrough, if anyone wants to contact me that way.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. Really appreciate it. And thank you for being so open about the details. It's very helpful and refreshing, I think I'll say, because a lot of people are quite secretive about a lot of these things. So for everyone listening, thanks for tuning in. To get the show notes and details for this episode, please go to highintensitybusiness.com and just search episode 495. And until next time, thank you very much for listening. This episode is brought to you by Imagine Strength, your go-to for safe, simple, and effective high-intensity training equipment. Growing a successful high-intensity training business requires workout equipment that's not only high quality, but also intelligently designed to fit the unique needs of your studio. And that's where Imagine Strength comes in. Drawing on the wisdom of the legendary Arthur Jones, Imagine Strength has crafted a groundbreaking line of fitness equipment that's as affordable as it is efficient, giving your studio the upgrade it needs without breaking the bank. The team at Imagine Strength breathes HIIT. Their passion for high-intensity training shines through in their designs, which they've consistently refined and innovated for optimum effectiveness and user experience. From my personal experience at Rec, I can attest to the careful consideration and craftsmanship that goes into every single piece. My Imagine Strength workout was absolutely brutal, in a good way, of course. Now, what makes Imagine Strength truly stand out? They have innovative equipment tailored for the unique needs of HIIT studios, affordable and efficient designs, lowering the barriers to entry for a HIIT business, continuous innovation and refinement, ensuring your studio stays ahead of the curve. Founder Jeff Turner and his team are dedicated to moving the HIIT industry forward and making strength training accessible to more people than ever before. Here's how you get started. Number 1, visit imaginestrength.com. Number 2, discuss your specific needs with the team. And number 3, select the equipment that will propel your business to the next level. Head to imaginestrength.com today and give your HIIT business the Imagine Strength edge. Be part of the HIIT revolution and see firsthand how their unique equipment can transform your studio's workout experience. Elevate your HIIT business with Imagine Strength.
Let's go.